of introducing the National Deaf Children's Society with an extra presenter. And I'll just hand over to Katie, who will take you through it. Thanks very much, guys. Give a round of applause.
My name's Katie. I'm the Policy and Campaigns Officer at the National Deaf Children's Society. And we've got a presentation here. I have no idea how we're going to talk that last one, because that was very, very dramatic and really good. So, first of all, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about NDCS, sort of what we do, who we are, and I have a little surprise quiz for you, not to give anything away. But the main presentation really is to hear from Neil and Jay, and I'll introduce them properly in just a little minute. So first of all, okay, so the National Deaf Children's Society, we're a UK-wide charity, and we aim to remove the barriers for deaf children and young people, and try to ensure that all of deaf children and young people reach their full potential. Childhood deafness is a low incidence need, so just 1,600 babies born deaf each year, and NDCS as a whole supporting around 45,000 deaf children across the UK. So our aims are really about empowering deaf children, young people and their families to determine and help shape what happens in their lives. We also aim to increase awareness about this low incidence need, about the type of support that deaf children and their families need, and challenge the social attitudes which can prevent them from reaching their full potential. We also aim to influence and challenge decision makers and make sure that deaf children are a political priority, again, quite often an overlooked additional support given the low numbers. So our team in Scotland is quite small, but we do deliver a nationwide family support service which works directly with young people and their families. And we also deliver youth events, family events. We have a helpline which provides an information service, and we have a whole range of publications and resources for professionals that are working with deaf young people as well as for young people and their parents themselves. Okay, so just very quickly, I want to do a little quiz with you just to see how much you know about deafness. So it's just got 3 questions for you, and they're just true or false questions. So the first question is 20% of deaf children have deaf parents. Is that true or false? If you think it's true, put your hand up. 20% have deaf parents. If you think it's false, put your hand up. Okay, majority of you are right. I don't actually know what you think is the right answer, but it is false. 10% of deaf children have deaf parents, so the vast majority, 90%, are born to hearing parents, which is why support in the early years is actually really crucial to then having those positive experiences right through. Okay, second question, true or false? There are 3,850 deaf children in Scotland. 3,850. You think it's true? Put your hand up. You think it's false? Okay, the answer is false, but it's a bit of a trick question. NDCS estimates that there are about 3,850, but we actually don't have accurate data in Scotland at all to tell us exactly how many children there are, so it really is estimates that we go on. So it's a trick question for you. Okay, and the final question is true or false? Nearly 10% of deaf young people leave school with no qualifications. So 10% leaving with no qualifications. Think it's true? Think it's false? Okay. Someone changed their mind there. It is true. So the latest Scottish Government data showing that 9.8% of deaf school leavers left with no qualifications at all, which obviously is extremely concerning, given that there's no reason why a deaf young person should be achieving any less than their hearing peers, given the right support from the start. So that's all I'm going to say. And well, I will say something at the end again. But when we practiced, Jay did say that I was being a bit boring and I should hurry up. So, Jay, I hope that I didn't bore you too much then. So I'm going to hand over to Jay and Neil. They're going to talk to you about their experiences in transition. So this is really, in this time frame, very much a short snapshot of what their experience has been like. And I just want to set the context here a little bit as well. About 80% of deaf young people are in mainstream schools. Very, very few that don't have an additional complex need would have a coordinated support plan. So what we've found is that transitional planning is very lacking among deaf young people. In fact, our research, we interviewed 25 young people, and out of that group, only 3 had a transition plan in place. So for deaf young people, quite often the experience of transitions is actually what happens when you leave school. And so these guys are going to talk to you about arriving in college and what that's been like and what some of the challenges have been for them. Quite often the experience of transition is actually working backwards in some instances, which I'm sure you all are familiar with. So Jay and Neil, sorry, I'm still talking. Jay and Neil are real assets to National Deaf Children's Society. They are part of our Young Campaigners group. And Neil is also a member of our Youth Advisory Board, so we are really thankful to them for coming along, even though they got to Sky from college anyway. So they're pretty happy about that, especially because there's a promise of pizza at the end. Okay, so over to you. I think Neil is going to talk to us first.
Can you hear me then? Right, awesome. As the slide shows, my name's Neil, and I also apologise for the horrendous photos of me because I'm not photogenic. I'm sorry. But yeah, my name's Neil. I'm 18. I'm deaf. I've got moderate to severe hearing loss, which means without my hearing aid, I can't really hear that much. I only hear like bangs, thumps, like really low voices, at like really low frequencies. And so if you're yakking to me and I don't respond, probably either because I don't have my hearing aids in or I've got selective hearing. But it's mostly probably because the former. I also have cerebral palsy, and so that also adds on the physical impairment as well. Now, I know that quite a lot of young deaf people do have problems going from school to college, and I kind of feel really bad saying this, but I actually had a pretty decent transitional period. I know I'm really back at everyone else, mostly everyone else here had quite that one. I'm like, ooh. And yeah, it was mainly down to my mum, because my mother is, once she got something on her mind, she does not stop. And so yeah, she basically kicked my ass all the way through school and all the way through secondary school and kept me going. And once we hit the transitional part, she kept going to all the meetings and everything to do with the transitional. I couldn't get involved with it because I had exams to do for getting to college. And so once I got into college, I had a wee scout round just to see what the options were, and they were actually pretty good. I go to City Glasgow College in town, which is a really good place, and I had a look around, scouted it out, saw my options, and I thought, okay, I'll go with this. And so once I passed my English, I got a C for English, and that got me into college. I was like, woohoo! And I was like, hey, school's over, booyah! And so, yeah, once I got into college, I was really happy that I managed to do it. And when I first got there, I didn't really go straight to the student support for at least 2 weeks, because I just wanted to like find my feet, see where I was going with it, what the course entailed, probably make a few friends. And then once I had that done, I went to the student support just to like clarify what I needed. And so I managed to get my hand on a laptop and this pen thing that you press a button and you can write notes as well as the fact that it records the lecture for you. So it's kind of like 007 James Bond stuff, which is really awesome. And so it's able to record lectures for me, and if I'm either not writing quick enough or not taking that many notes or just feeling really lazy, I just hit record and then it'll do it for me and I can just listen back to it. So that's really cool. I'm really excited to get it. I'm also applying for the Disabled Student Allowance, or DSA, and that will hopefully give me, or grant me money to buy all the things I need. And I managed to get a laptop, but I'm still waiting for the cool recording pen. And well, more generally though, when I started college, people were a bit, most people were like, oh cool, he's deaf, and he's disabled, so what, move on. But there were a couple of people who were like, oh, he's deaf. How do I deal with this? And I just, okay, I have to admit, sure, they don't really understand the fact that I'm deaf for the first time because I have massive hair, and that doesn't really help. And but they do kind of look at me as if I'm gonna like rob them or murder them or something. And I'm like, dude, calm down, I won't bite. Just chill, please. And then once I just tell them like about my deafness, they're like, oh, cool. Although it's the rather irritating prospect of people wanting to learn sign language, which usually entails the dirty signs. If you give me a fiver, I'll teach you. And then they just go, no thanks. Fair enough. Other than the rather irritating students who do that, there are, the majority of them are actually really good, and they've been really accepting for me. And I've got a good group of friends of mine who, like, oh cool, he's deaf. So what? I'll befriend you. I'm like, that's fine with me. Even though they have to sometimes put up with my weirdness. So, yeah, jokes on them. So, a day in the life of college for me usually starts at me looking at either two options. One, either go up the stairs to the 7th floor. My college has 13 floors, and my classes are usually on the 7th. Or we jump between them. And I either have two options: go up the stairs and probably die of a heart attack halfway up, or B, wait nearly an hour for the lift. We have 3 lifts. Most of them are quite big, not all of them are quite big, but there's loads of students who just use them for the sake of using them. And I'm like, dude, okay, granted, fair enough, there are people who have to go up to the 13th floor, I'll give them that, but there are people who go up to the 1st floor. And I'm like, dude, you have legs that work. I don't. You are able to walk upstairs. I can't. Get your backside out that lift, let me in, and you can take the exercise and walk up the stairs. Thank you very much. But usually they don't. And I don't usually say that because I need to be polite. Go on, your society. Yeah, and then that usually ends up making me late. But my lecturers do understand that I have that disability need, or the mobility need, I should say. And once I told them about my deafness, they were actually okay because they used to walk about and like just face away from me, and I don't usually pick up a lot of stuff. But once I told them that, they took that in mind, and then they started lecturing in a way that would benefit me. Although for some bizarre reason, one of them started to learn how to walk backwards and talk at the same time. I don't know why. It's cool, but okay. And also having the group of friends is also quite helpful, because if I miss something or I mishear something, they'll just correct it for me, and I'll be like, okay, fair enough, I'll do that. And right now, I'm still in the process of getting the DSA, and I sort of refer back to the student services and saying, oh, I tell them how I'm going with the courses and everything. And I find this way to be quite good, because when I was all the way through primary school and most of the way through secondary school, I had a personal support assistant literally breathing down my neck. And okay, granted, primary school was understandable. I'm a wee kid, we would just mostly try and break stuff. And they would try and keep control of me. But in secondary school, that's the sort of age where everything seems to be, like, image is everything. And so having a PSA literally breathing down my neck every 2 seconds isn't cool. And so I just told them that, and they were like, okay, we'll back up a little bit. And I was like, good, why didn't I do that in first year? And and now to go to the principles, I think the most important one for me is, most of the principles are really important, I think the number one principle is the fact that every single student, or every single child basically, should have a person-centered plan, because every single student is different from each other, and they all have different needs, all have different abilities, and all have different, but they all have different ways of learning. That's what I want to say. They all have different ways of learning, and you cannot have, you can have a blanket coverage, but you need to mould that around the person. But you can't have a blanket covered plan and just leave it there, because that doesn't benefit anyone. So, yeah, person-centered plan is the number one thing for me. So, thank you.
Hello, my name is Jay. I'm 18 years old and I'm profoundly deaf. Preparation from leaving school started in S4. Someone from the job centre came into the school to help me apply to college. I left school after S4 and wanted to do the BTEC Level 3 National Diploma in Performing Arts and Dance. I was happy to leave school as I was the only deaf person there. But I ended up going back to school for S5, the reason being that Edinburgh colleges joined together and the education budget was cut. This caused 35 students to pull out of the course. A day at college for me is different depending on which day of the week it is. Now I'm doing Impact Art on Wednesday and Thursday, Dance Space on Tuesday and Friday, Self-Study Academy English at home as English and writing essays was an issue for starting a course I wanted to do. Communication and language are barriers for me. My first language is Chinese, second language is Chinese Sign Language, third language is English, and fourth language is British Sign Language. I only get an interpreter at college in theory lessons on Tuesday and Friday. My support does not cover all day that I'm in college, as my study course level is BTEC. To arrange this support was my mum. She had a meeting with the support team in college. Despite the communication barriers, I have good news for next year. I accepted offer of my chosen course at BTEC Level 3 National Diploma in Performing Arts and Dance on August 2015. I still need to improve my English and my confidence. There are lots of important principles of good transitions. All of these principles are important, but for me, the most important is number 5. Young people, parents and carers must have access to the information that they need, because the information is so important, it's such an important factor in applying for a course which you love in how much support you may get and also finance issues. How can you complete the course and move to the next level? That it all relies on the information. It's so important to have this support in place in order to achieve your dreams. Thank you.
That was brilliant. Thank you so much to both of you for your contributions there. So just to kind of wrap up and summarise, I just want to highlight that obviously both Neil and Jay have had very different experiences, and obviously the support that deaf young people require really does exist on quite a wide spectrum. So going back to those principles that Neil and Jay have highlighted in terms of person-centred planning, the provision of support and information is really, really crucial. And earlier this year we launched a report called Close the Gap, which highlighted some of the gaps in post-school achievement for deaf young people, and it really showed that while deaf young people are actually overrepresented in college, which is great in terms of the fact that they're accessing college and getting into college, but very much underrepresented in university, and we don't have much in the way of data collection around the experiences of deaf young people in college and where that experience is then leading them on to. So again, the idea that transition is not just about that one moment after school, but it really does continue right through. Once a young person reaches a positive destination, how much is that actually sustained and where does it lead them to is obviously really important questions. So just want to highlight quickly as well something that we're working on at NDCS. It's a statement of intent or a sort of pledge for local authorities, and we've been working with the 3 Ayrshire authorities on this. It's basically a sort of 3-pronged approach, if you like, to improving or supporting a local authority to improve their transitional practices. The first one is around promoting positive emotional health and well-being, really trying to build confidence and self-advocacy in young people, and we're promoting that through training that we're able to deliver to professionals and young people. And the second is around supporting effective transitional planning. So we have a Template for Success resource. It's like a toolkit for professionals that are working with deaf young people, giving them a lot of background and context that they need to support young people right through that transition. And the third is really taken from the Scottish Transition Forum's recommendations around trying to bring professionals together, creating a forum for sharing information and expertise. This is something that has really taken off in Ayrshire, and with Scott's support it's been working really well so far. I think professionals that are working with deaf young people, again, there's low incidence needs, and potentially the first ever deaf young person they've come into contact with during their professional lives. A forum like this can be really crucial for some of those mainstream practitioners and professionals. So that's what we're doing. We're doing it in Ayrshire at the moment, but we're hoping to roll it out to more local authorities in the next year. So if anybody is interested in learning more about anything that we talked about today, then do get in touch. Over there. But main thanks to Jay and Neil. I think they did a brilliant job there. Thank you.